Hi, my name is Anthony Johnson. This is my presentation for the dynamics of worship leading. As I spoke in my discussion boards and different posts like that, I've been raised in church my entire life, and I've been leading worship now for 5 or 6 years. And growing up, I grew up in a church full of singers and preachers and traveling the country up and down the East Coast, playing as a musician. And my family was full of musicians. I started off playing guitar, and my uncle, who's now a pastor, played guitar. I have another uncle that's a pastor. He plays bass. My mom played piano and saxophone. I just come from a real musical family, and growing up, I spent a lot of time in church. And honestly, after this course, finding out I spent a lot of time learning bad habits, learning bad rehearsal habits, learning to kind of do things on the fly and hope that it works. A lot of people do things in service and not really sure about it, just wish for the best. And sometimes it goes good and it flows and it does fine. Other times it can go really bad. It can go really bad and just ruin the flow of a service. So the first thing I want to talk about that stuck out to me in this course was the rehearsal observations. And I never thought about going to someone else's rehearsal and observing what goes on in their rehearsal or watching their technique or anything like that, because I've spent the majority of my life in rehearsals. Never really paid attention to anything other than what I needed to learn and what the band needed to learn. I've been a part of some great choirs with some great directors, but I never understood the amount of work and the amount of importance that they hold or things like that. So sitting down and understanding that, the conductor's job is to keep the tempo. The conductor's job is to make sure that the section leaders know what they need to know in order to teach it to their section, making sure the tempo, the dynamics, everything is just on point and what it needs to be. So going to that rehearsal, as I spoke of in my rehearsal observation, opened my eyes to a lot for vocalists. I don't claim to be a vocalist. I actually do not enjoy singing, but I've been placed in this season of my life to where I have to sing, I have to minister, so it's kind of forced on me. But when you're around real singers who really are gifted, it makes you appreciate the gift, it makes you appreciate the craft. I learned during this course there's certain things you shouldn't eat, shouldn't drink before singing, leading praise and worship. Cold water, shouldn't drink. Sugary things, shouldn't eat before service. And like I said, growing up, just you eat breakfast and you go to church, but you never thought about what it might do to your vocal cords. Also, I come from a family of preachers who preach really hard and go hoarse, and I didn't understand that may have been a serious problem, and they were really damaging their vocal cords. I had to speak to my pastor after reading that and say, hey, listen, you turn up your vocal cord. This is what this may be called. You might want to take a break on that. So it opened up my lives to a lot. Also, the band rehearsal, which I already knew a little bit about, but I definitely seen where that could be very important, where the band comes together and just jails. A lot of times, like I said, in my church background, musicians just show up. They don't rehearse. You just show up, and you kind of give hand signals and yell out notes and things like that. And that may work for some, but truthfully, it's not professional. It's not in order. It's just you're kind of going on a whim, which is not the best way to do things. So having a set band rehearsal, having something for people to come to rehearsal, learn the material, practice your craft. I think that's a big thing and something that I should focus on for my musicians at my church, is just bettering yourself and enhancing your craft so you can enhance the service. We have a drummer at my church who's phenomenal, but he's also always working at his craft. So I see that, my band teacher in middle school said perfect practice makes perfect. Not practice makes perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. And that's true. And that's in all things, rehearsals, and everything. You should just practice. The next thing I want to talk about was auditioning. I come across a lot of people who show up on week in and week out and say, I want to sing on your praise team. And I'm going to be honest, I'm really particular about who I want to sing on my praise team. And a lot of these things I already knew. Not because I want you to sound the best, not because my praise team is that great. I only have 3 or 4 people on my praise team, and we're, very small in number, but making sure that somebody's spirit is right, their mind is right, they have time, that they're committed. Those are things that are very important when it comes to someone being on your praise and worship team. It is a job, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much work it really takes to be a part of a praise and worship team. So I definitely hold a high standard when it comes to my praise and worship team when it goes to who's going to join. Now, by taking this class, I learned a little bit more about the auditioning process and how that should look. And during that process, sitting down, talking to the person, seeing where their mind is, getting to know their personality, who they are, so that you'll figure out, do they fit my praise team? Do they fit this particular group? Then on top of that, finding out if they even have the skill set to fit into that type of group. A lot of people want to sing, and singing's not their calling. A lot of people want to preach, and preaching may not be their calling. And I've heard a lot of people have a whosoever will kind of spirit and let people get up and embarrass themselves. And it's not time to embarrass yourself. So I definitely try to steer people in the right ministry, because sometimes the music ministry isn't for everybody. And that's not to say everybody can't participate, because I'm all about group participation during praise and worship. You can sing as loud as you want to from the audience, but everybody's not meant to have a mic in their hand. So I definitely take that serious, and I believe in holding up that standard. And throughout this course, that's definitely something that I took from it, is holding up a standard, holding up some type of expectation that you are supposed to have for your praise and worship team, and your craft, and your life, living the life. That's the main thing. God can't operate if you're not living what you're trying to exhort to the people. That thing it's intertwined. What you have coming from your heart pouring out to the people, they feel that. So if you have nothing to give them, if you have no spirit, if you have no type of connection with God, and no prayer life, and no life for yourself, it won't work. It won't work. It's just like, you're singing, yeah, you sound great, but there's no connection. And I know this because I've been there. I've been there trying to live any kind of way and show up to church and play and sing. And then wonder why I get no reaction. Wonder why service isn't flowing. Wonder why the pastor has to get up and push the service. And that's my fault. That was my fault. So I had to learn, you can't just do this thing off talent. You can be talented, you can be gifted, but if you have no relationship, if you don't spend time praying, if you have no connection with God, you don't talk to Him, you don't worship in private. People don't understand that worshiping in private is just as important as worshiping in front of your church. So if you can't worship in private and hear God, how can you do it in service? So this course was definitely a refresher for me. It was something that I really enjoyed, and it opened my eyes to a lot of new things. So I love the curriculum. I encourage other people to take this course, and I just appreciate you taking your time and listening, and thank you for everything you've done for me throughout this course. God bless you, and have a good rest of your day.